Bethlehem has a lot of interesting burial grounds, and one particularly interesting one, but one you may not know very much about, lies on the extreme northern end of New Street. And you may not know much about it, but it has an interesting history. So let's go check out the Fairview Cemetery on this edition of Exploring Bethlehem. Today on Exploring Bethlehem, I thought we'd check out one of Bethlehem's lesser-known burial grounds here on the north side of the city. Let's check out Fairview Cemetery. It might be a lesser-known cemetery, but it's got an interesting history.
Although Fairview Cemetery on North New Street in Bethlehem can trace its origins to 1894, there are approximately 160 remains here that were moved from a displaced cemetery, about 1 mile from here. This happened around 1908. The displaced cemetery was alternately called the Evangelical Cemetery, the Methodist Cemetery, and even as the Gep Street Cemetery. According to the deed, the owner of the property was Sarah Steyer, the wife of Edward Steyer. Edward had just sold his brick-making business in 1891, and by 1894, the first interments began. Records show that Edward's son was issuing deeds to plots in the cemetery in 1906, with pre-printed deed forms, indicating that the cemetery was being run in earnest as a business. When the laws in the state of Pennsylvania in 1930 required the cemetery to properly incorporate, it was so done, and became a for-profit endeavor from then on through to 1986. From 1894 through to 1986, the land and property had been owned and maintained by blood family and relatives of the Edward Steyer family. Then in 1986 it was sold under court order to others outside the Steyer family. The records show that the grounds were well maintained over the years. The cemetery land was subdivided by the owners so that 2 large areas surrounding the cemetery proper could be sold off. The first parcel was sold to the nearby St. Stephen's Church in 1963, and the second parcel was sold off to a condominium association about 1980. Both exist there today.
It appears that the proceeds from the last sale allowed the owners of the cemetery to make improvements inside the cemetery. That lasted till about 1986, but then for about a 10-year period, the property was run as a tax-exempt property by new owners. And by September of 2007, with those perpetual care funds being depleted, care of the cemetery really had fallen on hard times.